First of all, I'd like to. Oh, good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to report over cross section. As you know, today there's one board member, Joshua Song, absent, and also student board also the absent. Yeah. So with that, the Board of Education took a numerous action 420 in cross-section to non-re-elected the following employee for the 2025 to 2026 school year. The first employee number PE 7869A15. The second employee ST 024437. This for tonight cross-section conclusion. Now I'd like to call to the order for tonight open section at 7:09 p.m. First of all, a pledge of allegiance. Dr. Nina Richter.
Thank you, President Chang. Tonight, it is our pleasure to introduce an outstanding Huntington Fox, Ms. Imogen Chandler, to lead the Board of Education in the salute to the flag and share a little bit about herself and her school. So Imogen, welcome and thank you for being here.
Good evening and thank you, Board President Chang, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. De La Torre, members of the cabinet, student board member Ta, even though you're not here, and community members joining us tonight. My name is Imogen Chandler and I'm a current 8th grade student at Huntington Middle School. With me tonight are my parents, Alicia and Brian Chandler. I'm relatively new to the San Marino School District. Unlike a lot of my peers who have grown up in San Marino, my first experience was when I came in 6th grade. The elementary school environment that I came from was a lot different than this school, but Huntington held a sort of appeal that I couldn't shake. I remember the night before hearing whether my transfer to the district was approved. The antsiness was a lot to handle. My mom had done everything in her power to permit me in from the Pasadena School District because of San Marino's exceptional academic reputation and extracurricular opportunities. I was beyond excited when I received the notice that I was successfully enrolled at HMS. The process of permitting into the district made me more determined to succeed and grateful to be here than many other kids may understand. One thing that HMS has given me as a growing student is hundreds of available opportunities. After seeing the elective options, I couldn't possibly only choose one, since they all looked so enjoyable. So in 6th grade, I learned the oboe and beginning band, building a strong foundation in music. Then in 7th grade, I took both 3D art and painting and drawing, improving my creativity and skill thanks to the amazing Miss Macedo. And finally this year, I auditioned and was accepted to the Bel Canto Choir, led by Mr. Jameson. I learned valuable and different things each year, thanks to the opportunity of taking these classes. In addition to my elective choices, I also participated in multiple extracurricular activities, like the dance and cheer team, taught by Coach Joy, and multiple school musicals, like this year's Beauty and the Beast, which you should all come and see, a year on both the JV and varsity volleyball teams, intramural sports, and school dances and activities. I'd like to touch on one of my favorite programs that HMS has exposed me to, the theater program. Out of all the amazing activities that I've gotten to experience, our school musicals have stood out as some of my favorite memories. The community of kids in both the cast and crew have been where I found some of my best relationships at HMS. And the rehearsal commitments have never felt like a burden, but instead some of the best parts of my days. It's just so fun. So to sum up, HMS has been an extraordinary school that has taught me things that I will keep with me for quite some time. All of the things that Huntington has exposed me to, I would not trade for anything. Though school does have its ups and downs, I will forever be grateful for what this school has taught me, both about academics and myself. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Now, please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you.
Great job.
Imogen, before you sit down, I'd like you to call you up to the front. We're going to take a photograph and I'm going to present you with a certificate of appreciation.
What character are you, Imogen?
Lovely. That's awesome. We cannot wait to come and see you perform.
I'm coming on opening night.
Super excited to see that production at Huntington Middle School. So I will read to you the certificate that we're presenting to you. It is proudly presented to Imogen Chandler in sincere appreciation for leading the Board of Education in the Pledge of Allegiance at the regularly scheduled meeting held on March 11, 2025. And your speech was very eloquent and it really helped to inform us about all the wonderful things that are happening at Huntington Middle School. So I'm going to present you with a certificate and we're going to take a picture with you. And thank you so much for being here this evening. And now I'm going to ask your principal and your parents to join us in the photo. Why don't you run? You guys can be on the side of her if you like. We'll just scoot over. Here we go. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm gonna shake your hand first, and then I'm gonna shake your mom's hand. Thank you so much for having her. Yeah, right. Yes. Okay, well, I'm sure we'll see you at we do the beast as well, right? Okay. Thank you. Very appreciate you. Good job. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us.
By the way, before we go to 6B, I would like to, it's my honor to introduce newly elected City Council Hunter Chen. Recently, you know, the city, they sent a letter to school district. So they, after they reorganize the office, each city council have their own responsibility to attend the meeting. So Kevin Law and Hunter Chen been assigned to be school district liaison. Yeah. So we are very honored. So we will stay with you and Kevin. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
So right now, I like give this official letter to superintendent. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the 6B approve of agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
To approve?
Any second?
Second.
Okay. Do I roll call? Mr. Lam,
Ms. Lam, aye.
Mrs. Lam.
Aye, yes.
Aye. Okay. Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gear,
Aye.
Mr. Chen. Aye. Motion carry. 6C approve of minutes. There's two minutes. Let's start from the first one. Do I have a motion to approve the February 4, 2025 special meeting minutes? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve? Second?
Roll call, Mrs. Lam, Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gear,
Aye.
and Mr. Chen. Aye. Motion carry. Do I have a motion to approve the February 11, 2025 meeting minutes. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Roll call. Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gear,
Aye.
Mr. Chen. Aye, motion carried. 7, public comment. The Board of Education has adopted Board Policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matter pertaining to the San Marino Unified School District. Person who wish to provide a public comment will have a 3 options to submit a public comment. First, submit through an online form. Second, request to speak during the meeting via the Zoom. Third, request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. Okay, let's go to the 8 public hearing first. A, notice of a public hearing regarding the AB. Yes.
We need a,
Oh, wait. Okay, before we go to the public hearing, so we have the gentleman, Anthony Hall, live in 319 West Loma Auto Drive, Altadena, California. I'd like to speak.
We actually can't have handouts unless they were given to us before.
I'm sorry. So in that case, I'll just read off. I'll read this. Because they say different things. Okay, so my name is Anthony. I was a student at Carver and a graduate of San Marino High in 2001. Before I start, I'd like to thank you, the board, for the hard work you do basically as a volunteer. Now, I'd like you to imagine you're standing on the grass on Huntington Drive, looking at San Marino High School with its beautiful Mediterranean-style design and its clay rooftops, which we built 20 years ago back when I attended. Now, imagine the grass you stand on is black with soot. You look up, and the school is reduced to rubble. And even your home is a pile of ashes. It looks like a bomb was dropped. That is the literal reality that thousands of families, including mine, are facing now. It is the worst natural disaster California has faced in our lifetimes, right in our very neighborhood. California's governor's order urges all school districts, I quote, to extend every effort to support and facilitate the enrollment of students displaced by fires, including but not limited to facilitating completion and approval of inter-district transfer requests. I'm here today to ask you, the board, to prioritize any child who has been displaced from their home or has had their school burned down, be prioritized within or above the current priority categories of inter-district transfer. As you know, the transfer process to San Marino is overbooked, and without this, the several children attending San Marino right now under the order may not make it, nor will new students who may wish to transfer, such as mine, be able to attend. Because this order is not mandated, you're not required to do anything. But I ask you, do you only do the right thing only when you're forced to? Joseph, I heard you say a few weeks ago that we teach compassion, empathy, and morals to the children. Board members, please show me, the public, and your students what example to set. How will you face your students when the children they become friends with are turned away next year simply because we didn't have to do anything? Use this as an opportunity to show your community that we help because it is the right thing to do, and not only when it is obligated. Thank you. And basically what I have here is, I guess I'll email this to you guys after, but just put in, I know you guys can't talk about this, so I'm asking for you guys to put an agenda item on the next board meeting to discuss the prioritization of students whose homes have been, burned, or their school has been burned. And yeah, I'll forward this to you guys later so you guys can see it. But thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to the public hearing. A, notice of a public hearing regarding the AB.
We do have attendees on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
We'll start the 1-minute timer now. Communications from the audience regarding matters not on the agenda or items in the consent or information sections, please provide your comments now. For items in the action section of the agenda, please provide your comments prior to the board beginning discussion on those items. If you would like to request to speak during the meeting, please press the raise hand icon to make a request. If you're dialing in from home, please dial *9 to make a request or submit a public comment card. There is 30 seconds left. We have no requests to speak.
Okay. Okay, let's go back to the AA, notice of a public hearing regarding the AB 1200 public disclosure of a collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you, President Chang. Mr. Huang, if you don't mind, please go ahead and start the 1-minute timer to take speaking requests. The San Marino Unified School District is now holding a public hearing on the 2024-25 AB 1200 report disclosure for the San Marino Teachers Association and Management Administrative Confidential and Unrepresented Salary Employees. This hearing is in compliance with California Government Code Section 3547.5, Education Code Section 42142, and the criteria and standards adopted by the State Board of State Board of Education. If you would like to make a request to speak on this topic, please press the raise hand icon or submit a public comment card at this time.
There are no requests to speak.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's go to the AB, notice of a public hearing, curriculum adoption. Dr. Ritter.
Thank you, President Chang, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Delatorre, and Executive Cabinet. The San Marino Unified School District Board of Education is also holding a public hearing this evening for the adoption of curriculum in accordance with Education Code Section 60119. Notice of this hearing was posted for public review at the district office, Huntington Middle School, San Marino High School, and the San Marino Unified School District website in advance of 10 days prior to this evening as required by Education Code. Clark, may we please begin the 1-minute timer? Thank you.
Started a little early.
Thank you.
We have 30 seconds left. We do not have any requests to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we conclude for public hearing. Next, go to the 9 consent section. Do I have a motion to approve the consent section from the 9A through 9F?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gear,
Aye.
Mr. Chen, aye. Motion carry. Next, 10 communication section A, communication from the Board of Education. Let's start from Mrs. Lam.
Thank you. I attended the All-City Track and Field Meet on February 28th. It is a time-honored San Marino tradition, and it was very inspiring to see such a wide range of young athletes, my daughter included, competing with such incredible passion and determination. These students ranged from born in the year of 2010 to 2017, so fairly young, and they all had such a strong level of competitiveness, and it was really impressive to witness. It was very fun to see them push themselves to different heights, and I wanted to say thank you to the city's Parks and Recreation Department for hosting this fantastic event. I think it brings the city together, as well as all of the young athletes. Thank you.
Next, Mrs. Ryan.
Nothing much to
Mhm.
share, so go ahead.
Okay, and then the next, Mrs. Gear.
Seems like a long time since we've been together for some reason. Over President's Week, I enjoyed some time away with my family, which was really nice. And I think the kids appreciated the break. I went to the Little League opening day ceremony along with many of the people up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were there.
Love supporting Little League. They're such great supporters of the district as well. So last week I attended the HMS band concert, and I look forward to attending the HMS showcase on Thursday night. It's always a great event for our schools. So thank you.
Thank you. As a board president, I attend the San Marino School Foundation trustee meeting, and also I attend the PTA council meeting. And the past Saturday was very excited as our friend of school district in Peter Cole and Sylvia Cole, and their daughter became the Miss Chinatown for the 2025 year. So there's about 70 people go to to support. I think they're probably scared for the judge. Yeah, but indeed, I always have a confidence on our alumni of San Marino High School. Yeah, her performance is such great. Yeah, so finally, she became the queen. So this not unusual. It's unusual because last year the queen also San Marino High School alumni. So before they start, I kind of worry about, if they already last year already San Marino High, they may not give to San Marino this year. Yeah, but I think the judge is very fair. Yeah. Yeah, they choose the best one to represent the community. And also Saturday, I was honored, the attend for San Marino City. They have they bought a new equipment. It's a fire department. They bought the equipment they can monitor for the emergency the case. So I was very impressed. Thank you for the council Chen, invite the community to know how good you guys will control the condition when they have an emergency. Yeah, I think that's it. Next, let's go to the communication from the superintendent.
Thank you, President Chang, members of the Board of Education Executive Team. I'd like to report that Dr. Richter and I recently attended the AASA National Education Conference, where I had the distinct honor and privilege of serving on a panel of superintendents to talk about the advantages and the necessity to educate the whole child. We were able to attend several informative sessions, some on artificial intelligence and being able to leverage the power of artificial intelligence in a responsible and a safe way, and how to integrate artificial intelligence into our classrooms today. And so we are going to be very excitedly putting together an AI task force that can start working on a scaffolded policy that will really help to inform how the Board of Education and administration will go about implementing artificial intelligence in a way that makes a lot of sense. And I actually was able to send our Director of Technology and our CBO a copy of a presentation that was very well put together on what the next steps will be in that realm. And so all hands on deck, we're going to engage in that process. We hope to engage the board in that process. We're really excited about it. Dr. Choi served on a LA County Office of Education committee that put together a policy that can be used as a template and a sample for many school districts. Of course, we will need to decide whether or not that meets with our board's expectations and ideas. It is really exciting when you think about the possibilities with artificial intelligence. And it's a little scary at the same time. But attending these sessions really helped us to put things in perspective and to be able to see it as an opportunity to use it as a tool, just like everything else that we have done in education over the past decade. So we're going to be working hard on that, and we're going to be talking a lot about that at the board Learning Summit, hopefully at the Huntington Library, once that is calendared. So we look forward to kind of unpacking what that means for us. In addition to that, we attended sessions on strategic planning, moving your district forward, just all the wonderful things that are either reinforced what we're doing here in San Marino already, or set the table for what is possible here in the future. So thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be a part of that wonderful event. It was very well attended. People from all over the nation were there. I also at that conference had the opportunity to connect with AXA's governmental relations representative, who I had a conversation with about the letter that I had written to Governor Newsom about our district and our situation, and asking two pointed questions. The first question is whether or not the governor plans to extend his executive order. Because if that is the case, we would very much like to know about that for planning purposes for the future. We need to start thinking about our class sizes for 25, 26. We need to determine whether or not we have adequate space on our campuses to meet the needs of the additional children that we have accepted into our district mid-year. Also considering that transitional kindergarten has lowered the eligible age for entrance into TK to 4 on or before September 1st. So this is the final year of the graduated entrance into transitional kindergarten. So this year we're going to have younger students on our campuses. And today, Dr. Richter was mentioning that you may even have 3-year-olds who are going to turn 4 in between August 13th when school starts and September 1st. So you can imagine some of the challenges that might present, but it's also with every challenge, there's an opportunity. And we're really excited about that. We're looking at those numbers, but for planning purposes, we've asked the governor to please let us know if they intend to keep those kids in place. Or if it's going to be just through the 24-25 school year. The second question was, will there be funding forthcoming for school districts like San Marino that were on the receiving end of having to accommodate students, which we love doing, and they're wonderful, and we're so happy to do that as a good neighbor. But we are impacted at both of our elementary schools in terms of enrollment, and we did have to purchase desks. We did have to purchase textbooks. We had to purchase consumables, and a whole host of other educational supplies to be able to provide these students with everything that they need to be successful in our schools. So we're hoping that this gentleman who we were introduced to will connect us with, as he has committed to doing, the senator who replaced Senator Portantino, and that's Senator Perez. So we're looking forward to connecting with her, meeting with her. I was told that she is the head of the Education Committee and is the best opportunity for us to really have an opportunity to tell our story in San Marino, which is very unique to many of the other districts around. We are not a basic aid district for all the reasons that the board is aware. And we're one of the lowest funded school districts in the entire state and one of the highest performing. So we really do need to tell our story and hopefully get some additional funding to support these kiddos going forward. In addition, since Councilman Cheng is here, Hunter Cheng, I wanted to mention that we have been in communication with City Manager Escandor, talking about a whole host of issues that might come up between the city and the school district. The communication has been wonderful. And I just want to extend my sincere appreciation and also let Board President Chang and the board members know that we have been going back and forth on potential dates to hold a joint city council and school district board meeting sometime in June. And so I have given him two possible dates that he will be presenting to council for their consideration. And we hope to pin that down as soon as possible because we know everyone is so busy that your calendars fill up so quickly. We need to get that on the docket so that we can meet. And I think that will be a wonderful opportunity for us to come together and talk about issues of interest to both parties. And that is it.
Thank
Turn it
you.
back over to you.
Okay, next, let's go to the 11 information item. 11A, Major M update, Dr. Territory and Dr. Choi.
Yes, thank you so much, President Chang, members of the Board of Education and Executive Committee. Dr. Choi and I attended the CASH conference from Sunday, February 23rd through Tuesday, February 26th. During the conference, we participated in sessions focused on bond management and bond financing training. These sessions provided us with valuable insight into being able to navigate the complexities of overseeing a Proposition 39 facilities bond, covering aspects from construction to managing bond proceeds, all of which was very informative and allowed us to really connect with a lot of players in the industry that will serve as future resources for our school district as we move through the process of the bond. Following the conference, the board appointed oversight committee met on February 27th for a training session with our bond attorney. President Chang, Vice President Gill, Dr. Choi, and I were in attendance at that meeting, and every single appointed member of the oversight committee, including Mr. Brunette in the audience, attended, so thank you very much. And at that meeting, the committee discussed critical topics. They were trained on their scope of responsibilities. They got a lot of information around the scope of their work. A follow-up meeting has been scheduled for March 27th, wherein they will be appointing their officers and reviewing bylaws that were given to them at their last meeting. In parallel, we actively are scheduling interviews currently for a response to a request for qualifications for bond program management services. Our bond consultant has been instrumental in launching this endeavor. and will be phased out as we build our permanent team for the bond. Additionally, we're going to be submitting resolutions to ensure that we can apply for Proposition $2. Importantly, and a note from the cash conference, Dr. Choi and I learned that the modernization money under Proposition 2 has already been exhausted. So we were shocked to learn that. Already gone.
So
However,
we were in line, but it's all gone, so it doesn't matter.
gone.
Okay,
So to get in line.
Again?
We have to get in line, and to get in line, we have to have the plans from the architect submitted to the state and DSA in order to get in line. Now, keep in mind, and this is what was explained to us very carefully at the cash conference by school facility consultants, that we're always in California, one statewide bond measure behind. And this was explained to me as saying, okay, let's take Arcadia Unified School District as an example. They were in line from the last statewide bond, didn't get funded because the money was exhausted, right? They didn't lose their place in line. And so when Prop 2 passed, they went to the line and started funding those projects that were approved to be funded. So we will get in line for the modernization money. And if, obviously it's not going to be funded through Prop 2, but the next time we pass a state bond, the district will be poised to be funded for the money that we're eligible for. The good news is there is still money available for new construction, which we will have and which we do qualify for. So we will need to get in line for that new construction money as quickly as possible. So there is still money there available for us to receive. So it'll just take time for the other. Furthermore, the county requires that the board adopt a resolution before the end of this fiscal year if we intend to draw money in the 2025-26 school year. So in light of these developments, we are going to be preparing that resolution and submitting it to the Board of Education for its consideration. And then we are also going to be scheduling a special board study session to review our current facilities master plan and prioritizing the projects that we need to get started with. And so we will bring to that meeting information on, what we have done thus far. You will have the facilities master plan in front of you. You will have the Facilities Advisory Committee's recommendation in terms of their priorities. We will update that with any changes to our environment, any changes in the school district's needs. And we obviously have growth now, even more growth at the elementary schools because of the governor's executive order that the board will need to take into consideration when prioritizing our projects. In addition to, matching money being available for new construction, but not necessarily modernization. So our needs as a school district continuously evolve, and the Board of Education will need to take all of those facts into consideration when prioritizing the bond projects as we go. So we're super excited about this. Dr. Choi and I have been very busy, really immersing ourselves in all things bond project. We're learning lots. We're leaning on the expertise of many people who are very well respected in the field. And again, we appreciate being able to also communicate with our Board of Education, our board president and vice president, who we will be meeting with at least twice a month going forward, to ensure that they are up to speed on what we're doing and the rationale behind why we're doing it, what we're recommending to the board, and why. And so we're very excited about moving forward with the bond as we see, coming forward. So it's great. Really excited. Thank you. Dr. Troy, did you want to add anything to that?
No, you covered it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chang.
Okay. Thank you. The school district will continue to update for major M to the community. Next, 11B, curriculum adoption presentation.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, President Chang, members of the board, Dr. Delatorre, our superintendent, and executive team. Tonight, it is my pleasure to present to the Board of Education information item number 11B, which is an overview of San Marino Unified School District's recommendation for proposed science and history and social science curriculum adoption for grades 6 through 12. This evening, I will provide an overview of the curriculum adoption process that San Marino Unified engaged in over the past year, highlight the work accomplished by the curriculum study committees, and lastly, share proposed curriculum adoption costs. I would like to also acknowledge and thank my amazing teachers on special assignment, Danielle Blatchley and Penny Roberts, who were significant in driving the work behind this very comprehensive process. This was an all-embracing process, and these two individuals did an outstanding job. Okay, San Marino Unified curriculum adoption followed a 6-step process. These steps, in essence, marshaled the convening of a curriculum study committee composed of subject matter experts to review adoption procedures and processes, review curricular needs, explore and vet state-approved curricular options, and select curriculum to pilot in the classrooms. Upon completion of pilot, they were engaging in curriculum evaluation using a state-recommended curriculum rubric, and then lastly made a recommendation for curriculum adoption. In compliance with Ed Code prior to adoption, the proposed curriculum was made available for public review and feedback in the district office here, January 14th through February 14th. No feedback was submitted. The final step, step 6, brings us to this evening where staff is presenting to the board proposed curriculum adoption for implementation. So we will begin with the science curriculum pilot process. Members on this committee are listed in the top right on that little sticky note. Myself, Huntington Middle School Valentine and Carver administration, our teachers on special assignment, and Huntington Middle School subject matter experts and K through 5 teachers from both Carver and Valentine. Curriculum piloted was STEM scopes for grades 6 through 8 and TCI for grades K through 5. A chronological list of the work accomplished can be seen here in the middle of the screen, beginning with the formulation of the Curriculum Study Committee in December 2023. After a successful pilot and curriculum evaluation, grades 6 through 8 science teachers unanimously recommended adoption of the STEM scope science curriculum. Piloting teacher groups' average ratings from the state-approved rubric can be seen on the table on the left side of this slide. As we can see from the overall average for all teachers, it's 3.875 out of 5. Some of the teacher comments from the rubric are also captured on the sticky note in the middle of the screen, or the middle of the slide. On the right side of the screen, we see proposed curriculum materials by grade level, length of the adoption, and total cost. Here we see curriculum pilot for information on the history and social science adoption. Members on this committee are again listed on the top right sticky note, myself, Huntington Middle School, Valentine Administration, our Director of Special Education, our 2 teachers on special assignment, 8 Huntington Middle School subject matter teachers, and 24 K through 5 teachers, both from Carver and from Valentine. Similar to science, a chronological list of the work accomplished can be seen here in the middle of the screen, beginning with the formulation of our History Social Science Curriculum Study Committee, December 2023. Curriculum piloted was McGraw-Hill for grades K through 8 and Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Brace for grades 9 through 12. Also similar to science, after a successful pilot and curriculum evaluation, grades 6 through 8 history, social science teachers, and grades K through 5 recommended adoption of the McGraw-Hill, California Impact Curriculum. Excuse me, not grades K through 5, just grades 6 through 8. Piloting teacher group average ratings from the state-approved rubric for grades 6 through 8 can be seen on the table on the left. And as we can see, we have an overall rating for those teachers as a 2.32 out of 3. This rubric only went to 3. Some of the teacher comments on the rubric are captured again on the sticky notes in the middle of the screen. And on the right of the screen, we see proposed curriculum materials by grade level, the length of the adoption, and again, the total cost. As we see at the very bottom of this slide, the 6th grade team has developed a very strong standards aligned scope and sequence aligned to the California state standard using the TCI curriculum. And that is state approved. They are going to continue to use that. They are not going to use the California Impact. And then they will revisit the adoption perhaps next year or when the new curricular framework is released. This slide reflects the high school work and the recommendation for history social science curriculum. Members on this committee included all San Marino High School history, American and world history, as well as government and econ teachers, myself and our teachers on special assignment. Once again, after a successful pilot and curriculum evaluation, high school history social science teachers recommended the adoption of Houghton Mifflin curriculum. Piloting teachers' group average ratings from the state-approved rubric are seen on the left with an overall 2.76 out of 3. They very, very much like this curriculum. Some of the teacher comments from the rubric are captured on the sticky note again in the middle of the screen. And on the right of the screen, we see proposed curriculum materials by course, length of the adoption, and total cost. Lastly, we have English language development curriculum pilot information that has been going on for a couple of years. Members of this committee are listed on the sticky note on the right. You can see, and a chronological timeline of the work that they accomplished is listed here in the middle. This ELD curriculum adoption work began in fall of 2022. After multiple curriculum was reviewed and piloted, San Marino High School is recommending adoption of National Geographic's curriculum called LIFT. The middle school will revisit the curriculum adoption following the release of the new ELD framework, which is anticipated in 27-28. Piloting high school teacher groups average rating from the state-approved rubric can be seen here on the left of the slide with an overall strong evidence rating. Similar to others, some of the teacher rubrics are captured on the sticky note in the middle of the screen. And on the right of the screen, we see the proposed curricular materials, the length of the adoption, and the total cost. So both curricular study committees engaged in a very comprehensive process and took the time needed to evaluate and select curriculum that best meet the needs of San Marino Unified students. This slide provides a summary of the proposed curriculum for adoption and the total cost. As mentioned earlier in this presentation, tonight's presentation, an opportunity for community input and feedback was provided. However, no public comment or input or feedback was received. So that's great news. This concludes my presentation for this evening on the San Marino Unified proposed curriculum adoption process. Once again, this is an informational item and will be brought back as an action item on our March 25th board meeting with a recommendation to adopt the proposed curriculum.
I have a question.
Of course.
If we could go back to the final.
Sure.
slide. Oh, so the middle school science is what concerns me the most. I think there's a reason why you've been studying it and looking to adopt a new curriculum because we need to improve there. There's room for growth. My concern, just looking at this, is that it's the most expensive, but the least well-received according to the score that you showed.
So we can go back to the score, but the science STEM scopes curriculum for grades 6 through 8 was very well embraced by all of the science teachers, 6 through 8.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it was in the
can go back.
3 out of 5? 3 something?
Oops. There we
3 point.
go.
okay, so-
3.875
almost
out of
4.
5. Yeah.
Okay, so how many were there that were up for piloting, I guess? Because I know you reviewed multiple
We reviewed
before you
multiple.
piloted them.
Yes.
so-
And we actually reviewed multiple school districts and took a look at what they were using for their science curriculum at all levels. And actually consulted with them to see what their feedback was on their curriculum. Many of them really liked STEM scopes. And so the committee narrowed it down to this very curriculum to pilot. And as they piloted it throughout the year, they became more and more impressed with the curriculum. And it was pretty unanimous
Oh, okay.
when it came to making a recommendation.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I wanted more information.
Yes,
'cause
absolutely.
Sometimes you can't tell just by a score.
Yeah, the scores are sometimes deceiving. I mean, depending on the rater, on how they're interpreting the descriptor.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question related to printed materials. So as we move on to being more digital, I did see like 10 grand in printed materials. I just wanted to understand the difference between the printed and the digital. And when are we going to start to shift away from having printed material?
So this is it's a great question, and it was a question that was brought up multiple times throughout this process. The print materials doesn't necessarily mean that the curriculum is coming in the form of a textbook. It may be print materials such as a student workbook, a student journal, a student inquiry journal. There are multiple, and it was so hard to keep them all straight with all the different levels and all the different curriculum that were piloted. So it's a combination of both. And the teachers, all the piloting teachers really liked the digital version of everything that was presented. But some of the materials, they actually preferred to be in print. It's not necessarily the whole set with the textbook, the journal, the inquiry journal and all that. There were certain pieces that they selected. That was an option we gave to our teachers to say, what out of all the things that this curriculum is offering, what are the pieces that you found to be most valuable and beneficial to your students and your instruction? And they were able to select which ones they wanted.
Thank you.
Oh, I have a question. To adopt the new curriculum, because I'm hearing from you, the action item will be the next meeting. But is that in the meantime, we still display the curriculum over there, or it will continue to collect the input, or?
We absolutely can. It was out for a little bit over a month.
Mhm.
And, you know, it was displayed prominently in the district office.
But how come we not tonight, we are not put into the action item
Because
after
we're doing a public
public
hearing
hearing?
first,
Yeah.
and we wanted to offer another opportunity to
Mhm.
present to the Board of Education what we were
So
doing.
next meeting also will have a public hearing or no?
No
more?
public hearing,
Okay.
just an action item. And if I may, Mr. Chang, we also presented an opportunity to the community by sending out a parent square message, telling them what we were piloting, what textbook we were piloting, and where they can come and take a look. And those notices were also posted on the school
Mhm.
entry, the doors.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's go to the 11C. The First reading of board policy 7310, naming of facility. Dr. Directory.
Yes. Thank you, President Chang, members of the Board of Education Executive Team. This evening, and I want to make sure with Mrs. Delatorre that this is the most recent version of the policy. It is, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so we have received some updates from council even today, and so I want to make sure you guys have the latest and greatest, which is what I will be presenting this evening. So you have a copy of the existing, right, Jen? Mrs. Delatorre?
I am looking right now. I believe it may not have transferred over completely in the same format. Give me 1 second.
Right, that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay, because I'm gonna walk the board through the changes and updates and deletions. But you have the existing policy 7310, naming a facility in front of you, and you also have another copy which has a red stamp on it. It says first reading 3/11/2025. So let me just take you through this very quickly if I can. And the reason this is coming up is that we receive many requests from members of the public, from members of the community to name things, to provide plaques, commemorative plaques, to plant trees in memory of someone who has passed. And the district needs to make sure that it has a strong policy that the board can rely on in order to make these decisions, because it's not one size fits all, and you want to make sure that your school doesn't end up looking, like a
Times Square.
well, that or a cemetery, right? Because you just need to make sure that your school is really, it's a community place where we educate children. And so we just have to keep that in mind. So I'm going to take you through this, starting at the very top of the revised policy. The written agreement shall, oh, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong place. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Pardon me. I'm going to get back up to the top because I was reading the whole thing. Okay. The Board of Education may, it said, the original said shall, so we're striking shall and we're saying may. Name district schools and other district-owned or leased buildings, grounds, and facilities in recognition of number one, individuals living or deceased and entities that have made outstanding contributions. And this is being added to the school community, which are generally deemed to be of important and permanent significance, including financial contributions. Number two, individuals living or deceased who have made contributions of statewide, national, or worldwide significance. That is in the existing policy. Number three, students who have died during their enrollment at a school district, or number four, the geographic area in which, and this is being added, the school or facility is located. Applicable school facilities shall include, but are not limited to classrooms, science or computer labs, libraries, gymnasiums, auditoriums, theaters, stadiums, fields, tracks, administration buildings, or other buildings/centers. And they're adding this, and may include furnishings for said facilities, which are used for administration or instructional programs. And we're adding this paragraph. No school facility shall be named after students currently enrolled within the district. No school facility shall be named after an individual living or deceased, which might bring the district into disrepute. Any name adopted for any new school shall not be so similar to the name of any existing district school as to the result in confusion to members of the community. Before adopting any proposed name, and we're adding this for a new or current school, comma, this is existing language, the board shall hold a public hearing at which members of the public will be given an opportunity to provide input. When naming or renaming a school district, a district school, classroom building, or athletic facility, the board may specify the duration for which the name shall be in effect. All, and this is being added, decisions regarding the name of school facilities are, and this is existing, subject to approval by the Superintendent and Board of Education. Naming rights. The board may grant to any person or entity the right to name any district building, grounds, or facility. In doing so, the board shall enter into a written agreement, and we're adding, provided the following criteria are met. Number one, the amount of the donation is considered to be substantial relative to the cost of the facility. As an example, funding a substantial portion of the construction or upgrades. Number two, the naming rights would align with district values, ensuring the honoree's reputation or business does not conflict with educational goals or public perception. Number three, if the honoree is a former employee or board member, said person has provided at least 25 years of exemplary service to the district. The written agreement shall, number one, specify the benefits to the district from entering into the agreement, and number two, state the roles and responsibilities of the parties to the agreement, including a provision that the board shall retain the power to approve any proposed name, and number three, provide details related to the naming right granted, including the building, grounds, or facility involved, and the duration for which the name shall be in effect. And number 4, prohibit any message, image, or other depiction that advocates or endorses the use of drugs, tobacco, or alcohol, encourages unlawful discrimination against any person or group, or promotes the use of violence or the violation of any law or district policy. And number 5, reserves authority for the district to terminate the naming right if the superintendent and board determine that the grantee, subsequent to receiving the naming right, has engaged in any of the prohibited acts stated in item number 4 above, or other criminal or unlawful acts that might bring the district into disrepute. We deleted the section on memorials. There was a whole section on memorials that was being proposed, and we just took that out. Didn't feel that it was necessary, as we're really trying to get away from that if we can as an educational institution. So I'm asking for the board's feedback on this first reading, so that we can bring it back for a second reading and for adoption at the next meeting if acceptable. This really gives the board leeway. It also establishes criteria for naming a building. We've entered into naming agreements before. The last one, I believe, was on the Barth athletic facility. And as you are aware, we received a substantial donation from the individual that really prompted that. And we were very open to that naming agreement. So the Board of Education should have some criteria in order to consider these matters, because we do get a lot of requests. And also, there's more risk involved when it is a major, like a new building, or you're renaming a theater or something like that. Than there is if it's, just a small plaque or something that you're placing on the side of a classroom or something. So everything is situational, and should be brought before the Board of Education for their consideration. But I like the fact that this new policy, which was reviewed by our district council, really stipulates the criteria in very plain language.
Does it spell out a process, an application process or anything like that?
No, but we could develop an administrative regulation. The board policy is supposed to be more general and broad, and then the administrative regulation that accompanies the board policy really kind of spells that sort of procedural aspect out to support the board policy. So we have to start with this and then we go to that. So we would
Very
create
clear.
a procedure, yes, to make it very easy and consistent. We want to be consistent with everybody.
I have a question about, since we're having new construction coming up, most likely, things that have been named already, how is that handled within our policy? If something's, torn down that's been named.
Well, if a building is torn down, we have to have a good reason for tearing that building down, right? And we don't currently have any building that I'm aware of that would be affected by that, which is good news, because we'd have to seek counsel on that. But I don't think that we're under any obligation as a school district to transfer that name to another facility. It was done at a point in time and the district's needs evolved.
But going forward, that
Yeah.
would be handled and considered
Yes.
with naming rights.
Yeah, I think that the board would take all of that into consideration whenever we're constructing a new building or we're tearing down a building. The Board of Education has an opportunity to look at the impact of that project and really, decide what you want to do. and how that's going to affect public perception and then direct staff to do the work. So, yeah, we would evaluate that, I believe, on a case-by-case basis. But I don't believe that currently we have any buildings that we would be taking down that are already named.
I think the board here, the input is very valuable. So I think in the meantime, I think the executive should think about this issue. Because after we approve the bond, I think some probably will tear down or disappear. So if current the policy they have some the wording said how long they can effect. So I think we should look at this issue. By the way, I want to share with the board why tonight we are discussing about this issue, because a couple weeks ago I was told by the community, one community people, they suggest someone should have the name opportunity. So I feel this a very serious issue. So I would rather to bring up this issue that the current board to review all the wording. Because I think every 5 year, 10 year, we always update about policy content, especially this time, even we have a major aim. It's coming soon. They will have a different building. So besides that, I look at the first page, the one that they said individual living or disease, that including for financial contribution. So is a board policy also want to establish the dollar amount, or this should stay in the administrative the policy?
Well, here down below, it addresses that issue generally. What it says is the amount. Okay, so the board may grant to any person or entity the right to name any district building, grounds, or facility. In doing so, the board shall enter into a written agreement, provided the following criteria are met. The amount of the donation is considered to be substantial relative to the cost of the facility. So if you have a building that is costing $17 million to construct, and you receive half of that in a donation, right, the board might consider naming that, because it's situational, because the cost of construction will continue. Inflation is real. It's going to continue to happen. So you would have to change your board policy if you fix the amount. And then it wouldn't make sense if you were working on naming a classroom as opposed to an athletics facility or a big gym or the near auditorium, right? Which we have no plans to touch the near auditorium, no plans to touch the Huntington Auditorium.
Kenneth F. White.
Kenneth F. White, thank you. It escaped me. Thank you for that. We don't have any plans to take those buildings down. And we're not thinking about renaming schools, right? Districts might consider that if, for some reason, the name of the school may appear discriminatory in some way. There's been, situations like that have come up, but we have never had any complaints about our school names. And we have Valentine, Cale Carver, which was named after a board member of many years. Huntington Middle School, we all know who Henry Huntington is, and San Marino High School, which is just the city's name. So I don't see anything controversial in that, or in any of the names that we have on the buildings currently. But if for new construction, basically it's saying that the amount of the donation is considered to be substantial relative to the cost of the facility. So funding a substantial portion of the construction or upgrades. So that gives the board something to work with, but it also gives you flexibility. Doesn't lock you into a particular dollar amount.
I also like that the person could have a significant contribution. That person wouldn't necessarily have contributed financially, but it would be in honor of that person.
Right. You could have somebody.
So
in
I
there
like
who-
the flexibility.
Yeah.
that is in here
Right.
personally. but-
Yes.
And it can be named after a corporation,
Mhm.
correct? That,
Mhm.
and it's at the board's discretion if it's.
It leaves the discretion to the Board of Education, but yet gives you guidance on, criteria that should be taken into consideration when making these kinds of decisions. And it's a big deal. Putting a name on something, on a facility or a building is a big deal. You want to make sure it aligns with your values as a school district. You want to make sure it's not controversial in any way. You want to make sure that that person or that corporation or whatever, hasn't done something that you're not going to find out about until, 10 years later, and then you have to go back like, I won't name names, but in Orange County, they had to change something, and I think yeah, for political reasons, but we don't want to be in that position, right? We just don't. We want to be thoughtful about putting names on buildings and facilities. But also, we've had requests on putting names on furnishings in buildings, which I think is less, of a big deal than naming a facility, right? And so the board will need to think about how you want to approve those requests as well.
So here's a
Yeah.
question really quickly. Thinking about how you break down facilities into different components.
Yes.
I mean, if you're looking at naming a stadium, then you're naming a scoreboard, then you're naming the seating, you're naming the concession stand. I mean, who gets if you are paying for a stadium name, giving people, I don't know, any sort of say over who else's names are there, like a building with classrooms and so forth.
It's the board's
It's all gonna be,
discretion. It's the board that makes these decisions based on the policy, right? And again, if you were naming a stadium, right, the amount of donation is considered to be substantial relative to the cost of the facility. Funding a substantial portion of the construction or upgrades even, right? Naming rights would align with district values, ensuring the honoree's reputation. All of those things have to be taken into consideration. And then you could also, consider service. It talks about if the honoree is a former employee or board member, said person has provided at least 25 years of exemplary service to the district. So you have to think about, do you want that to be 25? Do you want that to be 30? Do you want that to be 40? Do you want it to be, what do you want that number to be? What is considered in the community, I guess, to be substantial? And how you define exemplary? So those kinds of things you have to think about for our AR, right?
in 25 years is what you see as kind of standard.
This came from the bond attorney who's, he really provides counsel on all things facilities. So he took a look at other people's policies, other district's policies. But that doesn't mean that it has to be this for you. It could, for San Marino, you guys can change this if you'd like.
I think that if we've kept it at 25, which means there are people that have been named that are 25, and if we change that now, there's just, it'll be maybe a little funny. Like in that, like there are people that have been served for 25 years, and if we increase the year, it doesn't seem to be consistent continuity. I'm fine with that.
Okay, any other questions, comments, or recommended changes to this policy? If not, I will bring it back for a second reading, the next meeting, and action to adopt. And then we can work on the administrative regulations based on your comments.
Okay, any more question? Okay. Okay, thank you. Next, let's go to the 12 action item. The 12A, 2024 to 25 second interim financial report. Dr. Stephen Choi.
Okay, thank you, President Chang, members of the board and executive team. It's my pleasure to present the 2024-25 second interim financial report for certification and board approval. School districts are required to submit 2 financial interim reports each year, and as you may recall, I presented the first interim report in December, which reflected our financial position through October 31st. Tonight, I will present the second interim report, which provides an updated financial snapshot through January 31st. This report serves as a mid-year assessment of our budget and shows how our finances are tracking. And as with the first interim, the board must certify whether the district can meet its financial obligations for the current year and the next 2 years. And there are 3 types of certifications possible based on the district's multi-year projections. A negative certification means that the district cannot meet its financial obligations. A qualified certification means that the district may not meet. Negative means cannot. Qualified may not. And of course, positive confirms that the district will meet its financial obligations. Before we dive into the report, I do want to take a moment to recognize our accounting team, including our Director of Accounting, Ms. Banji Lingat, and our accounting analyst, Ms. Susanna Barber. Their diligence and expertise have been instrumental in preparing this report. And in the next few slides, I will walk you through our key revenue and expenditure highlights leading to our recommendation for a positive certification. A few of the key revenue assumptions I wish to highlight for the second interim is the fact that we are fortunate to continue to have an increase in enrollment of 146 students since the prior year, with most of the growth occurring at the elementary level. Cost of living adjustments, COLAs, are set at 1.07% for 24-25, with projected increases of 2.43% in 25-26 and 3.52% in 26-27. Finally, a key revenue assumption is that San Marino Unified continues to benefit from local donations. Local support remains strong. We continue to receive generous donations from the San Marino Schools Foundation, along with funding from local parcel taxes measures R and E. These contributions help fund teachers, counselors, technology, and library services, all of which are critical to our schools. These revenue factors help keep our district financially stable and allow us to continue providing high-quality education to our students. Here are some of our key revenue updates for the second interim report. Even though total enrollment saw a slight decline, our average daily attendance, ADA, improved. This is important because higher attendance means more funding through the local control funding formula. Our unduplicated student count has increased, which also contributes to increased revenue. We expect an increase in federal funding as we plan to use available Title I funds. Special education funding is anticipated to improve in the second interim. We've updated our regional program revenue estimates based on the latest information from our SELPA, which could reduce the district's required contribution compared to what we projected in the first interim report. As you can see, while local donations and parcel taxes play a critical role in supporting our district, LCFF state aid remains our primary funding source, making up 62% of our total revenue. Now let's take a look at our key expenditure assumptions for the second interim report. The district's budget accounts for pension contributions to CalPERS and CalSTRS, step and column salary adjustments, and employee benefits, rising costs for utilities, supplies and services and equipment, and ongoing contributions to special education and maintenance and operations. Here are some of the key expenditure data points for the second interim. We project an increase in salary expenditures as the second interim does include adjustments for the 5% off schedule and 1% ongoing increases for SMTA, management, administrative, confidential, and non-represented employees. The second interim also projects increased expenditures in books and supplies, operating expenditures, and equipment. The second interim reflects these updated expenditures as we wrap up the installation of the DOJ camera project, adjustments for contracted services, including our field trips, and completed improvements to Carver's marquee and auditorium, which was largely funded by an anonymous donor. And as you can see here, 73.2% of our expenditures are allocated to salaries and benefits, reinforcing that our district funds are spent on people, our teachers, staff, and support personnel who directly impact student success. To wrap up, let's take a look at our ending balance for the second interim report. For the 24-25 school year, we are projecting deficit spending with an ending balance of 21 million. While the state requires districts to maintain a minimum 3% reserve, which for us equals 1.8 million, it's important to recognize that this amount wouldn't even cover 1 month of payroll. Understanding this, the Board of Education has proactively committed funds to ensure the district remains financially stable in case of future revenue shortfalls. Superintendent Dr. Delatorre recently shared with the San Marino Unified community about the importance of fiscal health, reserves, and having a rainy day fund. Many school districts in our state are still facing declining enrollment, which impacts funding. To prepare for potential financial challenges, the board strategically built these reserves as a safeguard. A key example of why this is important goes back to 2020, when the district failed to renew Measure E. Without that revenue, the district had no choice but to issue layoff notices to address the budget shortfall. This created uncertainty for employees, impacted livelihoods, and resulted in the loss of valued faculty and staff, a situation no district wants to face. While Measure E was eventually renewed, the damage had already been done. That experience reinforced an important lesson. We need financial safeguards in place to weather future challenges. Over the past several years, the board has taken a proactive approach by creating these committed reserve balances to provide stability in uncertain times. Moving forward, the district will continue working with the Board of Education to carefully review our committed balances and maintain fiscal tools to protect our resources, our staff, and most importantly, student success. At this time, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the district's financial projections, confirming that the district can meet its financial obligations for the current year and the next 2 years, and approve the second interim financial report with a positive certification.
Anyone have a question?
I have a question about how Dr. De La Torre addressed the governor and how we are planning for that. I feel like that's a big area of uncertainty going into the next school year. So
Yeah, we're in budget development right now, so we have to develop scenarios. We're going to ultimately develop a scenario where we don't get to continue and a scenario where we do.
Additionally, we do plan to hold a board study session on the budget after the May revise comes our way, so that the Board of Education has an opportunity to look at, as an example, our committed funds and decide whether or not you want to move money around into different committed categories depending on our changing needs and our evolving needs. You know, one of the questions that I get is, why do you still have the declining enrollment amount there? And are you going to change that? The declining enrollment, it could happen again, right? Right now, we are not in declining enrollment, and many of the neighboring school districts are. But that doesn't mean that that is going to be fixed forevermore. That could change for unknown reasons at this time. Like Pasadena, they didn't know they were going to be impacted by the Altadena fire, right? That had an impact on their enrollment. You just never know what's ahead, and it's better to prepare for contingencies and the unknown than it is to get caught with, you know, a lack of resources to be able to manage whatever crisis you're facing. So we're going to talk through all of those issues, and the board will have an opportunity to really look at our budget. We'll have more information, like Dr. Choi said, with scenarios. And maybe we'll hear back from the governor's office by then on whether or not that executive order will be extended. In addition, we will probably know more about our enrollment forecast for 25-26, because As of March 1st, we opened registration for residents. As of May 1st, that's when interdistricts can apply. And then we're gonna know, about how many TK classrooms we're gonna need next year. Are we gonna have the same number of sections in each school? Are we gonna have an increase? All of that information will be important for the board to hear about in order to make those kinds of decisions and provide us with more feedback on the budget. So that will happen in May. The May revise comes out about, is it mid-May?
We'll have a lot of information come out early mid-May.
Yeah, okay. And so we'll probably, we're going to be reaching out to you in advance of that to schedule time to have the budget board study session. But I think that that's really important for us to sit down and go over all of that and really make sure that you guys know what we have, what we don't have, and why. And we're going to continue to advocate through our politicians for San Marino's situation, because people forget that we're not a basic aid district. They hear from districts like Beverly Hills, that's basic aid, Laguna Beach, basic aid. They get far more funding per student per year than San Marino does. So I hope to connect again with the senator.
We should get you on Governor Newsom's podcast.
Love it. Sign me up. I'm there. I want to tell our story. I've started telling our story more and more. And it may be falling on deaf ears because very few people feel sorry for San Marino. That's what they tell me. You guys are a wealthy district. You can handle it. The district is not wealthy. The community is affluent, right? But the school district is one of the lowest funded school districts in the state of California. And yet we continue to be high performing. That in and of itself should tell a story. That should be someone's, dissertation for their PhD. Somebody needs to study. What is it that San Marino's doing, without all the extra money and still getting the results that isn't happening everywhere else?
On the second entrance financial report you prepare, so besides the increasing enrollment, is that you also already put from the February to June for those inter-district? There's about 72, right? Is that also
So it
compared
is,
to
yes, those enrollment
month?
numbers are in our projections through June, yeah.
So can you share where you put there in the?
It is on one of the attachments. Yeah, it is on the P288 report. That is on page attachment number 4 of the narrative attachment. So if you go to the item, yeah, right there, narrative, you scroll down to page 16 of 17. This is our standard ADA report. It pulls numbers from our CBEDS data that's collected in October, and it does include projections through June. Yeah. And what's interesting about the ADA report is it highlights the fact that our students, they have tremendous attendance.
Yeah.
And we base our projections at a very high attendance rate. So
It's almost, equal to enrollment, but not quite.
almost, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
almost 98%,
right, we
which is
get
quite
funding
high.
based on, attendance, not enrollment. But they're almost the same in San Marino. We're very, very fortunate that our kids are here every day. They're engaged. It's quite remarkable.
So with about 70 inter-district kid, because we have a fixed overhead. So with the 70, what is our variable, the cost, operation cost?
So
there's
it's to quantify right now.
yeah.
Because again, we've been able to put them into existing classrooms. We didn't have to hire any more teachers this year because our class sizes were already so low.
So from the February to to June is the same, FTE, right?
Yes.
Yes, for
so
staffing,
that-
yes, yes.
Staffing, yeah.
So it will, if these kids come to school every single day,
Uh-huh.
right, through the end of the school year,
Mhm.
you could do, like 70 times, 13,500.
Right, right. There's additional revenue for
And
that, for
then,
that
uh,
EDA.
By two, right, because it's only half of the year.
And then a textbook or digital device, is that
Those-
increase or?
There are some there are some variable costs, like you said, like the furniture we have to purchase. There are some instructional materials. Yes.
And so we're actually trying to keep track of all of that, because that's what I'm asking the governor for. Will the receiving districts receive any funding to support the additional cost? Because we had to purchase desks, we had to purchase consumables, we had to purchase textbooks. And we didn't have a funding source for that. So will we, receive any additional funds? I'm guessing because we are the minority, not the majority, is probably gonna not do that. But going forward, if we retain these students, right, then we'll get the full amount next year.
I think it's important to reiterate to our families, though, that our commitment to our low teacher to student ratio, and that is part of something that I think greatly contributes to our high performance and our success. So I think, I know some people were concerned about that, but we are committed to.
We are very, very committed to low class sizes, particularly at the elementary. And I believe that we still have comparably low class sizes. When you look at other neighboring school districts at the elementary, and I did provide the community with a table that shows them what our average class sizes are, with the additional enrollment. They're still very low, very manageable.
I think it's a good, the accounting, pick up those variable costs. You never know, maybe the governor may create next year disaster relief
Right.
fund.
Yeah,
So then
the
we
accounting
can,
team is definitely tracking
Yeah.
these
Yes.
expenditures, and we've had some experience with disasters or crises, and we have been tracking.
Yeah.
Can I move to approve?
Oh, I have a question, actually. I was looking at, so if we look at the general fund, and I'm just looking at the net decrease in the fund balance. So projection, we're at a deficit of 893. What non-instructional methods are we considering in order to bring that deficit, like big picture wise, not just looking at year 24 to 25, to bring that to to minimize it, because we went from 855 in the prior year and now we're at 893, and big picture wise, this will just continue to grow in that sense. So just kind of bringing attention to that and understanding non-instructional ways that we can reduce that deficit.
Yeah, I think we're constantly looking for ways to save money and reduce our expenditures.
Like vendor contracts or.
Yes, that's, and also as we're going through budget development, it's an opportunity for us to find ways to reduce those expenditures. Because we do project not deficit spending in future out years. It's the healthy way to budget. You want to have a balanced budget. So without a doubt, we don't want to reduce things that have a direct impact to instruction and to students, but at the same time, we are closely looking at our expenditures.
We are always doing just that, but also I get this question a lot. How can you be deficit spending and yet you're projecting that you're going to have a $21 million ending balance? How do you reconcile that, right? Well, deficit spending comes from a calculation between your projected revenues and your projected expenditures, right? And that's how you end up with a deficit spend. But that doesn't mean that we're short that amount. At the end of the day, right, we're still going to have $21 million as our ending balance. So it's hard for people to really reconcile that. But that's a calculation based on projections versus the reality, right? That we're looking at a $21 million ending balance. And part of that $21 million ending balance is reserves.
Correct. There's the minimum reserves of the 1.8 million, and then we do have some committed balances.
So when we say we're deficit spending, it doesn't mean that we have a problem in our budget. It just means that that's the bottom line when you do the calculation on projections. So we could be over projecting, right, our expenditures. Doesn't even necessarily mean it's actuals.
Well, we try not to deficit spend when we can, but the reality is things happen and things change, and you know, the budget is a snapshot of that.
Right.
Right. So the purpose of the second interim is to show how are we doing mid-year, halfway through the year. So we look very closely as we look at our expenditures. Are we spending half of what we budgeted for since we're mid-year, right? And we continue to monitor that as we approach June 30th. And as we do year-end closing, that's when we'll really get a much better idea of how we did. It's kind of like looking in a rearview mirror, you know, how are our actuals?
Yeah, that's really where the rubber meets the road, in my opinion, is where you end up at the end of the day. Versus, you know, because the budget is a living, breathing, dynamic animal. It constantly changes. You know, figures that we're giving you in January are going to change in February and March. And so I just want the board to be mindful of that. When you see deficit spending, it doesn't mean that there's a problem necessarily.
By the way,
But it's a good question.
by the way, the COP payment, 1.5 million, is that the principal plus the interest or?
Well, that's a committed balance that is sort of reserved for a COP payment. So the district does currently owe a COP payment that includes both principal and
Yeah.
interest.
But the interest is about 400,000 per year, right?
The payment is about that.
Yeah,
The payment,
payment,
principal and
that's,
interest.
that's the principal and the interest? Or the-
I don't have the exact figure, but however,
Dollars a year, that's what we budgeted the payment to be every year. But it's not always $500,000.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 400 million. But we, again, that's gonna get paid off.
Yeah,
That was in our resolution.
so the
originally,
payoff day will be the next, when we
when
collect
we get the
the
money.
so that's a topic of discussion that we need to have with the board.
2026
as
or
we look at-
2027.
So we have to have a discussion with the board to prioritize, you know, when should the district pay off that COP? It is, like Dr. Delatorre said, it was included in the resolution for Measure M. That was part of the plan. And when we act on that, you know, it may ultimately reveal we don't need a committed balance just for future COP payments anymore.
And refresh my memory on how much interest we would be saving if we paid that COP off. Sooner rather
We
than
just had our financial advisor recently provide that information. It's, yeah, it is significant. It is significant to pay that off.
Yeah, should be, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
I'll try and-
Yes.
I think the interest you can budget for the, like, yeah, you delete the cost, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, there's do I have a motion to approve 2024 to 25 second interim financial report?
Yes.
So,
Any
moved,
second?
yeah, second,
Roll call, Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
aye.
Mrs. Gear,
Aye.
and Mr. Chen. I motion carry. Let's go to the 12B, 2025-26 academic calendar.
All right, thank you, President Chang, Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Delatorre, Executive Cabinet. As a part of the negotiation process between SMTA and the district, we collaboratively arrive at a work calendar that also encompasses the academic calendar. In addition, the district also collaborates with CSEA and receives their input as well. As one of the items from the 24-25 negotiation cycle between SMTA and the district that was recently tentatively agreed upon, tonight I present to you the proposed academic calendar for the 2025-2026 school year. It is very similar in structure to the current calendar for the 2024-2025 school year. The calendar proposes a student start date of August 13th, 2025, and a last day of June 4th, 2026. It also includes the President's Week in February that has been in the last couple academic calendars. The only really substantial change is the day that this year came after we came back from Thanksgiving break would now go just before Veterans Day. The certificated work year would begin on August 11th, 2025, and also conclude on June 4th, 2026. The school year will still consist of 180 student days, and the certificated work year would remain at 185 days. It is recommended that the board adopt the academic and certificated work calendar for the 2025-2026 school year.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second, roll call, Mrs. Lam, Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gia,
Aye.
Mr. Chen, aye. Motion carry.
We would be saving 1.3 million to pay it off before June of this year. If we pay it off half of June of next year, it would be almost 1.3 million, but it's 1.287.
Thank you. 12C, the San Marino Teacher Union tentative agreement.
Alright.
Dr. Jason Rose.
All right, once again, thank you, President Chang, Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Delatorre, and Executive Cabinet. I'm pleased to announce that we have reached a tentative agreement with the San Marino Teachers Association, our CTA bargaining unit. First and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge and thank members of the SMTA negotiating team, as well as our district's negotiation team, for their hard work, dedication, and collaborative spirit throughout this process. Reaching this tentative agreement required a great deal of effort, patience, and understanding from both sides, and I am grateful for their commitment to finding common ground. We are proud to announce that we have agreed on a 1% increase in salaries for all certificated employees. Additionally, prior to the 1% increase, there will be a one-time bonus of 5% to be distributed to all certificated employees employed prior to September 1 in recognition of their hard work and dedication, especially during these challenging times. In addition to the salary adjustments, we also clarified and fine-tuned language regarding the workday, teaching hours, adjunct duties, and leaves of absence. We also discussed the health benefits and stipends. We believe this tentative agreement represents a fair and balanced outcome for both our certificated employees and the school district. It acknowledges everyone's hard work and dedication while ensuring that we can continue to provide quality education to our students and remain fiscally solvent. It is recommended that the board approve the tentative agreement between the San Marino Unified School District and the San Marino Teachers Association. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any question? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gia,
Aye.
Mr. Chen, aye. Motion carry. Let's go to the 12D, Management Administrative Confidential and Unrepresented Tentative Agreement.
All right, once again, thank you, President Chang. I'm pleased to announce that we have also reached a tentative agreement with the unrepresented confidential administrative and management employees. As a standard practice in the San Marino Unified School District, our unrepresented confidential administrative and management employees receive the same salary adjustment offer as our two bargaining units. Once again, we are proud to announce that we have agreed on a 1% increase in salaries for all unrepresented confidential administrative and management employees. And additionally, prior to the 1% increase, there will be a one-time bonus of 5% to be distributed to all unrepresented confidential administrative and management employees prior to September 1, employed prior to September 1. It is recommended that the board approve the tentative agreement between the San Marino Unified School District and its unrepresented confidential administrative and management employees.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gia,
Aye.
Mr. Chen, aye. Motion carry. The 12A, AB 1200, Public Disclosure of a Collective Bargaining Agreement, SMTA.
Good evening again, President Chang, members of the board, executive team. AB 1200 requires California public school districts to publicly disclose the provisions of all new or amended collective bargaining agreements upon ratification. This process ensures fiscal accountability and transparency, supporting a district's long-term stability and commitment to high-quality education. Items 12E, F, and G are action items for these AB 1200 disclosures. So first up is the public disclosure for SMTA, which shows the fiscal impact of the agreement terms that Dr. Rose just presented. This AB 1200 disclosure was also submitted to the Los Angeles County Office of Education for review and analysis to ensure that the district could meet the required reserves during the term of the agreement. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the AB 1200 disclosure for this agreement with SMTA.
Any more question?
Move to approve.
Uh, do I have a second?
Second?
Roll call. Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
and Mr. Chen. Aye, motion carry. Next, 12F AB 1200, public disclosure of a collective bargaining agreement, management, administrative, confidential, and unrepresentative salary employee. Dr. Stephen Choi.
Item 12F is the AB 1200 public disclosure for management, administrative, confidential, and unrepresented salary employees. Similarly, the disclosure shows the fiscal impact to the district that LACO has reviewed to determine that the district could meet the required reserves. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the AB 1200 disclosure for management, administrative, confidential, and unrepresented salary employees.
Any question? If not, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Roll call. Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
Mr. Chen. Aye, motion carry. Next, 12G, AB 1200, public disclosure of a collective bargaining agreement, combined. Dr. Stephen Choi.
Thank you. Finally, item 12G is the combined AB 1200 public disclosure for both San Marino Teachers Association and management, administrative, confidential, and unrepresented salary employees for the 24-25 school year. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the combined AB 1200 disclosure.
Any question?
Move
Can-
to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call. Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gill.
Aye.
Mr. Chen. Aye, motion carry. Next one is 12H, approval of amendment to the superintendent employment agreement. For this issue, we cannot treat our superintendent too special. So because we have to apply to every. So that's the reason, we would recommend the Board of Education approve the amendment to the superintendent employee agreement as indicated in the paragraph 4.1 of the employment agreement. So let's go to the 4.1.
We don't have the whole agreement up there. It's just the amendment that the.
Okay, just amendment, okay.
Move to approve for the superintendent to receive the same
Yeah.
agreement as everyone else.
Second.
Second,
We need to have on record the oral summary that's being recommended this evening.
yeah.
Do you want me to read it?
I'm happy to read.
They gonna read it?
Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
Would you like me to read for you, Dr. Chang?
Sure.
yeah.
All right, so tonight the board is to consider the recommended approval of an amendment to the superintendent's employment agreement pursuant to Government Code Section 54953. This is the oral summary of the recommendation. If approved, the superintendent's current annual salary will increase by 1%, retroactive to July 1 of 2024. In addition, the superintendent will receive a one-time payment in the amount of 5% of her annual salary. The remainder of the superintendent's employment agreement shall remain unchanged and in effect, except as otherwise lawfully amended. The proposed salary increase and one-time payment are consistent with the increases in payments to other unrepresented employee groups, including management, confidential, and supervisory employees for the 24-25 school year.
Is there anyone have a question on the wording?
No,
No? Okay,
Been
Ye-
moved and seconded.
can I have a second?
I
Oh,
seconded.
you second,
Yeah.
okay. Roll call, Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gear,
Aye.
Mr. Chen, aye. Motion carry. We cannot treat you too
Thank you.
special.
And I love the board.
Yeah, thank you for your
Special.
dedication.
You are special.
Okay,
Aye.
12I, CSBA delegate nomination. Okay, the Board of Education will vote for CSBA delegate assembly representative in the sub-region 23-A. Is that anyone have some comment on this agenda? Can you read? Or
Who's reading it? Anyone?
I cannot.
I can read it. You want me to read the whole thing? Okay, enclosed in the ballot, or I'm sorry. I can't read it.
You want me to read it? You want me to read
Enclosed
it?
is the ballot material for election to CSBA's delegate assembly for your region. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Or sub-region. It consists of number one, the ballot on red paper listing the candidates, the reverse side of which contains the names of all current members of the delegate assembly from your region or sub-region. And number two, the required candidate biographical sketch form. And if submitted a resume in addition, provided is a copy of the ballot on white paper to include with your board agenda. Only the ballot on red paper is to be completed and returned to CSBA. It must be postmarked by the U.S. Post Office on or before Monday, March 17, 2025. Your board may vote for up to the number of seats to be filled in the region or sub-region as indicated on the ballot. For example, if there are 3 seats up for election, the board may vote for up to 3 candidates. However, your board may cast no more than 1 vote for any 1 candidate. The ballot also contains a provision for write-in candidates. Their name and district or county office must be clearly printed in the space provided. The ballot must be signed by the board president, board clerk, or superintendent as a designee of the board and returned in the enclosed envelope. If the envelope is misplaced, you may use the district's or county office's stationery. Please write delegate election prominently on the envelope along with the region or sub-region number on the bottom left corner of the envelope. This number appears at the top of the ballot. If there is a tie vote, a runoff election will be held and ballots will need to be postmarked on or before April 30th. Results will be published by May 11th, 2025. And then the bottom doesn't really apply because that's for county boards of education only. And that's it. So you can only
2.
vote for the number, yeah,
It's 2.
and only 1 vote
Yeah,
per candidate.
yeah, any comment? So right now I know the why you did not attend the City Club ophthalmology.
Oh, thank you. I have glasses, I'm just not wearing them, now, so. Yeah.
Okay,
Go back.
yeah. So, yeah, let's have a discussion.
I believe the candidates are, if you keep scrolling.
Mm.
There's, right,
Okay,
Oh,
yeah,
up.
yeah.
those 2.
Oh,
We have 2 choices and we're allowed 2 votes. So I move to vote for these 2 candidates.
okay, any discussion before the second?
There's only 2
There's 2.
candidates. So
Second.
a second.
I
yes,
second. Yeah.
Okay, you second, okay.
Need to read their names into the record.
Yeah,
Kathleen Cross from Glendale USD and Dr. Gary Scott of San Gabriel USD,
Thank you.
2-year term
Uh-huh.
beginning April 1st.
Okay, local, Mrs. Lam,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gear,
Aye.
and then Mr. Chen, aye. Motion carry. Okay, lastly, 12J, second reading of board by law, Dr. Territory.
Can we pull it up on the screen?
The SBA site, it's not loading up for
Yeah,
me either,
Mine.
but the internet is.
Oh, it's
working.
not gonna come up?
Yeah, there's something, that's
Okay.
CSBA's website.
Okay, well, this is a grouping of the board bylaws that we so carefully went over at our last study session meeting, wherein the Board of Education gave me direction to make changes to some of the recommended policies, which were made. And so I'm asking for the board's approval and subsequent adoption of all of these policies. There we go. Thank you. So we can start with, can you make it a little larger? Okay, so we have bylaw 9323 meeting conduct.
Sorry, I started backwards.
Oh, you started
Do
backwards?
you want me to start with number 1?
Um,
This is 14.
yeah.
I have the list.
We may want to show the board though where the changes were made so that they know the changes were made. Yeah.
No, it
So,
doesn't say that
um,
on the agenda.
Not pulling up.
Oh,
and you have these policies, right? Mhm.
Oh, there it goes.
No, their website's not working.
Website's not.
Well, you want to go in the order that you have them then?
Yeah,
That's okay, let's do that. Okay, so I hope the board, is okay with the fact that we might be going in a different order than you have them in your packet. We have bylaw 9323, meeting conduct. Please scroll down. So under quorum and absenteeism, we have highlighted the changes that, were requested and made, education code, 35164, so we're citing the ed code. Under public participation, the section that is highlighted and underlined is being added. And then number 1 is being added, number 2 is being added, number 3 is being added, and number 4 is being added to this policy. As requested. Okay, scroll down. Okay, and under reporting by the public, we are adding the first 3 lines and striking the word persistently. And that's all for that policy. Any questions about that policy? Okay, next policy. Okay, so bylaw 9322, agenda / meeting materials. Everything that is highlighted in this policy is new, right, Jen? Okay.
New or reworded to match
Yeah,
CSBA's.
to match CSBA's policy. Scroll down. Okay, so we're adding under agenda preparation, the sections that you see highlighted in yellow and underlined. So that's 4 paragraphs there. And then we have, agenda dissemination to members of the public. All of the language in highlight and underline is all added to match CSBA's policy. Okay, so any questions on that particular policy?
Any question?
Okay, next policy. And then we have bylaw 9321 closed session. Again, we were comparing CSBA's recommended policy with our old outdated bylaw. And we have made the changes that you see highlighted and underlined in yellow, which is the majority of this policy.
Any question on this policy? Okay.
Okay,
The
next
next one.
policy. Okay, bylaw 9320 meetings and notices, everything in yellow and underlined is added. And what you see stricken is being removed. Again, updated to either cite the government code or the education code, or we are adding language that is consistent with CSBA's recommended policy, which is up to date and in compliance with the law. Okay, any questions on that policy? Okay, next policy.
Yeah, next one.
Bylaw 9270 conflict of interest. Scroll down. Okay, conflict of interest from campaign contributions. Header, Form 700 is a new section.
For this one, the last time we mentioned we will contact the county, right? Is there any, is a dollar amount or what?
Or Form 700?
No, for
$500.
$500.
Normally Jennifer gives us the Form 700, right?
Oh, that's another, that's a responsibility we need to report, yeah, during the spring, yeah,
Isn't it now? I think it's due now.
yeah.
It is due now, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
she sent it out to you guys. So
She did? Can she send it to me again?
Yeah.
Tell her to
Yeah.
do that too. Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
So that's
Well, I didn't do
a
it.
new section, just keeping us in compliance with the fair political practices. Remote interest exception to government code 1090. Again, a conflict of interest with financial investments and that kind of thing. Scroll down.
Does it have an ethical section?
Are
This-
you trying to, were you, oh, it's gone.
No, I go to check the, go to check the
Time.
the form, yeah.
Okay,
So-
Yeah,
so
because-
everyone did.
Yeah,
Together.
Kelly's.
So
This section I had a comment on.
the gifts,
No, the incompatible offices and
Yes,
activities.
okay,
I think that this kind of a little bit oversteps on our, ability to volunteer as parents. I think that the spirit of it is right in that we don't want to conflict, but, I think we could just take out any official or unofficial chair and just put executive officer positions, because all the big, events at the schools are executive chair positions. So I think that as a parent, we like to volunteer on certain events, and if it says official or unofficial, that kind of gets rid of it.
I agree.
Do you agree?
Okay.
so that's a conversation for the board.
Yes.
Your policy.
I think, yeah, executive officer.
Yeah,
position makes
so
sense,
just
but
take
that-
it, shall not hold any executive officer positions with any school-connected
Okay. Are
organization.
you signing contracts in either of those I mean, as in an executive officer
No.
position, you're signing contracts
you are.
potentially, right?
You are. The other
But-
ones, no, because
okay.
only the executive officers have contract, capability.
Okay. What if you're the chair of a committee where you're signing contracts?
You don't, you can't. The way that they structure like a grad night or like,
So
Eight,
grad night
like a-
chairs aren't signing contracts or?
grad night chairs are, but not any of their committees. Everything goes to the chairs.
But what board member Gill is saying is that like if we're serving on a committee, we would be an unofficial chair, so to speak.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
It's your own,
We're volunteering,
yeah, but
And
we're
s-
not gonna be signing anything.
but we're not.
I mean,
signing.
or then,
But
unless
you're
you
saying that if you're
specify,
chair,
unless you specify, you just don't sign contracts.
What the- okay.
Which is, that's what we're concerned about, and which is a justified concern.
Official chair would, you're talking about, I think, which is chairing a committee, right?
Right, I
That-
want to take that out,
You want to take that out,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because a lot of things are called chairs, but they're not really chairs. Like, you want to
But
be
I
the
guess-
chair of the sweatshirts.
Yeah, so the
Like-
purpose of this language was to make sure that there is no conflict of interest between a position that is signing contracts, right? And maybe putting the district in a legal liability situation where
Right.
you're also a board member, right? So let's say that this committee does something, you know, not intentionally, right? But gets the district in trouble somehow. And then there's a lawsuit that comes to the Board of Education. But you were also the chairperson who signed the contract to do the thing.
Yeah, but I don't,
right?
I'm saying
Yeah,
you're not signing a contract.
so then we would need new language, right, that stipulates that? And
Sure, if that's,
yeah.
because that sounds like that's the point of this is signing contracts, which I think is totally fine to prohibit that, like to keep us very much in the clear of a conflict of interest. But I still, as a board member and as a parent, want to be allowed to serve in an unofficial capacity where I am not signing contracts and handling
I agree.
any.
Like, we just want to help
Yeah.
the background,
Yeah.
but not have this language kind of forbid us from
Yes.
doing so.
Okay, so
That's why where you say shall not hold an executive officer position nor have any contract signing power or something like that. You could,
Only because the word chair is so loosely used.
it's so loose.
You're just a chair if, like you said, sweatshirts. If
But
you're-
executive officer
Yeah.
positions are the main chairs
Actual
of,
officer.
like a Carver Carnival
Yeah.
chair is also an executive position and they are the ones who sign contracts.
right.
But no one else does.
Uh,
So I think it's too prohibitive, the way it's worded.
Okay,
Sherry, what do you think? I know that you,
Yeah, put me right in the middle of it.
Tell us.
I understand why we're doing it, but it's not just merely the signing of a contract, it's the appearance of impropriety. It's the appearance that there's conflict of interest, and that's why I talked a little bit about the ethical. So if we can clean up the language of the actual label, that would be great, because that allows our board members to serve on committees. But we do want to limit the scope of what they're involved in, because just for instance, some of the projects that are at the schools, whether it's a fair or grad night or anything, it is $150,000. And, the school does not want to be encumbered with that. And nor do we want the appearance of, yeah.
okay, so why don't we pull this policy from, right, the second reading and bring it back, with.
And allow cabinet the opportunity to just kind of wordsmith it.
I think maybe there isn't an understanding, maybe amongst cabinet, as to the jargon that's used amongst parents.
Yeah.
And that's in conflict here.
Mhm.
So, yeah. I think
Let's-
we're all on the same page.
Then, Mrs. Delatorre, can you pull this policy?
Yeah,
You know,
Set it aside.
I just
and
want to be
let's-
able to
help.
help, yeah,
Yeah.
volunteer, be,
Okay.
you know, just be there.
With your parent hat on.
But not, yeah, not like in the shadows.
In the shadows. In the dark of the night. Undercover, okay. I mean, I understand both perspectives.
What if, sorry,
Yeah.
can we just say that, you know, board members shall not hold any official chair or executive office positions, but may volunteer as general, maybe general volunteers at school activities, maybe something like,
They can,
Yeah.
wordsmith away.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think something like that would be acceptable. Okay, we'll bring it back
Yeah.
then for further conversation with the board.
For
at the
this
next meeting.
particular policy.
This particular policy.
Thank you.
You wanna go,
thank you.
yeah, scroll down.
Mhm.
Okay. Scroll down. Okay, so that's this policy that we will bring back, and then let's go to the next one. Okay, we have bylaw 9240 board training. This is an additional policy. I don't know whether we had language before or not. Let's go down. This is all new. Oh, we're striking. It's not all new because we're striking such as the annual education conference and trade show by CSBA. We just took that specific language out.
Are we planning to update this yearly then? Because I know some of these dates got stuck in there.
We can.
Like we have a 2018 that we had to clean up. Do you
Right.
want to put more general date information, like January 1st of of said year? Or what-
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
saying?
yeah. I think we did that when we first adopted the policy, to memorialize
When it was adopted.
by when, yeah. It was
Whatever.
originally, it must have
Whatever
been
you guys
because, right? Or did we put that in there, Jen?
That's
Do you
new.
know?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I have to go back and look.
That's new.
Yeah. We can, make the dates more general.
Or change them every year.
Yeah,
whatever.
or change it every year. We can look at these policies every year.
We probably should.
We should, bylaws should be. Right? We're gonna put, this is Ryan in charge of that.
Honestly.
Okay.
Don't say goodbye, okay?
Don't
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, bylaw 9230
My keys.
orientation.
Little Jedi.
First paragraph is an addition, second paragraph we're striking, third paragraph addition, fourth paragraph addition, fifth and sixth addition, and that's it. Any questions on this? Okay, next policy. And this is 9223 filling vacancies on the board, and we've had to do this in the past. So this is an existing policy. Can you scroll back up for just a second? Yeah. So number two, paragraph number 2, under events causing a vacancy is added. Number 3 is added. Number 4 is added. Number 6 is being stricken. Scroll down. Number 8, we're adding the government, well, we're adding the code sections here in all of those paragraphs. Eligibility for an appointment is being added. And we're adding that paragraph at the very end.
This is one of my favorite board policies as I had to replace two
Yes, you
board
did.
members. Yeah, this is one of my favorite.
You probably know it by heart. You've memorized it. Thank you. Next policy. Okay, now we're looking at bylaw 9220 governing board elections. We added the ed code citation there. Recalling a board member. I hope we never have to do that. There, we're adding that section. Consolidation of elections, we're adding that section. Elections process and procedures, adding that section to comply with the law, striking that paragraph. Because we're not a trustee boundary area. Adding campaign conduct, adding the title statement of qualifications, option 1. We decided to go with option 1, which is 200 word limit, which is consistent with our past practice as
Yeah,
opposed to
yeah,
option
this
2.
is this is the one, yeah.
Yeah,
right, right,
yeah.
yeah.
And that's it, because option one ended up there, so. Okay, the next policy, please. And we have board bylaw 9150 student board members. We added that paragraph, struck the next paragraph. We've stricken petition, added choosing student board members. We've stricken the second paragraph, added the third paragraph. We added the second part of that paragraph that you see at the top of the screen, added the ed code citation, and we have stricken the paragraphs below and above student board member training. We've stricken the first paragraph in student board member training, added the second. We've stricken alternative or alternate student board member. We've never had an alternate. Elimination of student board member position, we struck that as well. Okay, any questions, concerns, comments? No?
No.
Next policy. Bylaw 9124 attorney. Again, this is CSBA language. We've added paragraphs 1, 2, 3, and 4. Duties of legal counsel, consistent with what we had. Retaining legal counsel, we've added paragraphs 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 and 6. Contacting legal counsel, we added or designee may at their discretion. Second paragraph, we added superintendent. And that is it for that policy. Any questions, concerns, comments, additions, deletions? Okay, next policy. Board bylaw 9100 organization, added that last line in the first paragraph, added the second paragraph. Struck under election of officers, the first paragraph. And we went with option 2, which is the board shall each year elect its entire slate of officers consistent with past practice. And then option 2 ends there. Comments, questions, concerns? No. Next policy. Okay, board bylaw 9012, board member electronic communication. We added the first paragraph. We added the government code citation. We added that paragraph, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs we've added, and that's all. Consistent with CSBA's policy. And we have board bylaw 9010, public statements. We added board spokesperson. We added the second sentence. In that first paragraph, we added or by law with the government code citation, statements by individual board members, the second part of that paragraph, which you see bolded and or highlighted and underlined. And then that paragraph underneath it is an addition, and that's that policy. Any questions, concerns, comments? Okay, moving on to the next policy.
I think that's all.
Is that all?
Yeah, that was bylaw.
Okay. That is great work. We accomplished a
Yeah.
lot. And I know it's painstaking to go through these board policies, and I want to thank you for your time and attention. We just have one that we're going to be bringing back, and we have now, we've been able to cover the board bylaw section of our board policies, which is pretty amazing. So great work. Thank you to the board members who worked really hard on this. We're going to bring back some wordsmithing on the language that you have requested for adopting at the next meeting, but these I need for adopting these policies. With the exception of, what was the number?
Said
before?
the 2 policy, right?
The one.
Set aside 1 or 2, 2, yeah.
9270 and 9240.
Move to approve with the exceptions of
Okay, any second?
Second,
Second, oh, go ahead.
second.
Joanna, second?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call. Mrs. Lam,
I.
Mrs. Ryan,
Aye.
Mrs. Gill,
Aye.
Mr. Chen. Aye, motion carry. Okay, the last one is board superintendent discussion item.
I've talked a lot.
Okay,
I think I'm done.
okay, so no discussion item tonight. With that, I would like to adjourn the meeting 9:27. Thank you for